Welcome back to Wyandot Lake and episode 3 of this Planet Coaster 2 water park. We've got a lot happening in this video as we are going to be wrapping up the in-park section of our entry plaza. So without delay, let's get into it. We're going to start off here with a store just inside the park entrance. This is going to be our main store. It's the water park store, pool shop. I don't remember the exact in-game name of it, but it's gonna sell floaties and other pool gear for maybe you left it at home or you didn't think to bring it, or maybe you did, but we've got something a little bit cooler. So that's what this is gonna be. Um, we're also going to put inside these windows here that we're doing some examples of what's being displayed. So we've got the floaties that are in the game that we can put in here. I will say the game's changing. Obviously, the June update here coming out in just a couple days is going to include a souvenir shop, uh, like interior kind of. I don't really know how to call it, but you essentially will be able to build actual uh, souvenir shops with kind of interiors and everything. And so I think this is one of the buildings that I don't want to do a ton of redoing stuff we've already done, just because I think um, it, not putting in some of the more recent stuff into kind of our older areas lets us do that later on and adds kind of that realism of, oh, this is a really good idea that other places are doing, so now we need to do it at our park. But I do think there are going to be some instances where maybe we want to go back and redo some areas to incorporate some of those new elements, and this does, to me at least right now, feel like one of those areas um, that we might go in and change. And I think once that kind of comes out here in June, we'll kind of see what pieces it has, and we might come back and redo this building to kind of put in an actual kind of gift shop interior that guests can go into, kind of based on what items are available. And same thing with the windows. I think they said that all of the different products that are sold in the gift shop, at least the one that you're going to be able to see, uh, it's individual assets as well. So we could change out some of the things in the window. Maybe not with this gift shop, because I kind of like the floaties here, but with some of the other gift shops that you'll see us kind of build throughout the park. So we might go in and make some changes. I don't know quite yet. We also, you saw a second ago, we put in a dryer over here. You're going to see these kind of throughout the park. I talked about this a little bit in the last episode. I'm not really sure if the game will play this way, but I, in my mind, people are going to want to use them before going back to the cars. And so that's why we've got 3 of these here at the front of the park, one up right there, 2 in kind of that other building that we might kind of turn into security. And then each themed area will have at least one dryer within it as well. And something else that we just finished it up here, is these covered areas. Sunburns are in the game, and I absolutely love it. I do wish we had some more options for shade structures. Um, I just think, like, you see the canopies in parks all the time, and there's nothing really in the game comparable than that, other than maybe kind of the shapes, but they don't really have that drooping look. But we kind of moving back to this building, we put in this kind of canopy over the entrance to the store, so that if you're waiting in line, and I hope there is a line for this because that would mean we're making money, but you're not getting burned. Um, and I think it just also does a really nice job of kind of breaking up the aesthetic of the building here, which I'm just really, really happy with. So right now we are going to kind of work on kind of the foliage kind of area around here. I talked about we want to kind of have, the beauty of like a Busch Gardens or a Dollywood, right? Kind of some very, very pretty parks. I've not been to any European parks, but my understanding is kind of the European parks are this way also. And so we're really going to kind of put some foliage through here. I think these palm trees I'm doing right now, the three, I see those all the time when I'm traveling, and I think they just look so cool. When you have kind of the three palm trees that kind of come out from one spot together. But we're going to kind of put some foliage in, and then we want to make sure we can still see into kind of our display areas. But then along the walls, we'll kind of put up some kind of higher shrubs and whatnot. And then this area here, we've got the fence kind of blocking the back area. And the reason we do the foliage and the fence is because somebody could walk through the foliage and right into a back area. Or what happens when that foliage dies and it needs to be replaced, and all of a sudden you can see straight into the back area and you can easily access it. So all of our back areas are going to be fence restricted, but we want to hide the fences, right? We talked about a little bit of that Disney-esque theming, and one of the things Disney does really well is you can't necessarily see into the hidden areas, and that's very intentionally designed, and so that's kind of what we're going for here. And then with the little gap back here, put in a couple trees and everything, just add a little bit of depth, because I think now when you look from the front, you don't necessarily think, oh, this is back area. There's nothing back here. Just having those trees there adds a little bit of depth, so you can kind of see into the back a little bit. I will say, with the lights that I'm putting in here now, I wish they were a little more powerful. I think it's a huge update that you can now dictate if they are on all the time, just at night, or whatever. But I do wish they were a little more powerful. I still think at night they're a little bit dark. And then, of course, for the realism, adding in this the HVAC, the back door, which would kind of be your staff entrance, where they kind of bring in merchandise and everything from this kind of back parking lot area, trying to kind of go for that realism here. So that this is going to be kind of our main store, which again, another reason why I think it's just perfect. And then obviously you have that back parking lot there, but over here, I think we started this last episode, but we're going to finish it up now. We're going to work on a photo spot. We're going to also put in this little garden here. I've talked about needing a spot for security. I really like this garden. I think this garden looks really, really nice here. And we'll come back to this in a second, and some thoughts on that. But here's our little gates. We end up putting like little do not enter signs on them eventually, which I think just looks so good. But then we're going to do this little photo stop here. I think as a park, from a marketing perspective, it's really smart to build in photo spots, right? You had a great day, or you're with friends throughout the day and you just want to get some photos, and so that's what this area kind of is, because I think from a marketing perspective as well, while it's important to have these, you want to take advantage of the opportunity. So we're going to put in this little Wyandot Lake sign, and then I think we put some flowers and a couple trees maybe, and then we're also going to put in this little wall. It's meant to be kind of a sitting wall. I don't think guests are really going to use it, although I will say I did see, I think it was maybe on Reddit, a few days ago, somebody had built kind of a Greek temple, and they had put steps within it. And I think, I imagine it's the only way I can think of that you could do this. But they put a bench within this Roman uh, steps, or these Greek steps, I should say. And people were sitting on it. And so I think I might try and figure out a way when we put this little wall in here uh, to try and get a bench in there so people can sit there. Because I think we maybe go with a little thicker bench or wall than this. I can't remember if this is the final wall or not. But I think that would just look so cool. And then it's got like a little step in. So obviously this is a very, very high traffic area. Just because it is the park entrance and also the exit. And I think a lot of people are going to be using this when the park opens in the morning or leaving at night. Um, and so it's got this little kind of step off that people can stand to get their photo so that they're not kind of clogging up the midway. And then I really, really like the way this looks at night is fantastic. But the light blue, the Wyandot Lake, and then I tried to match the signs posts, so that green to kind of the foliage behind it. Try and really give it a floating look, especially kind of at night. I think it maybe has that a little bit more. Be kind of cool if we could make the actual letters themselves light up. I think that'd be really cool. I think would really kind of emphasize that floating look. And now that I'm looking at this, I actually might go in and make a couple changes. I'm kind of wondering if I need to maybe light the area in front of it a little bit. That way, when you do kind of your photos as you're kind of leaving the park at night, it kind of lights it up a little bit more. I don't think I've even gone actually through and lit up the entry plaza yet. So maybe when I do that, or when we touch things up before we open the park, that is something that we can look at. But yeah, I mean, that just look at that. That looks fantastic. Super, super, super happy. I don't think I add any more plants or anything in. But so no, I did not. I don't think that wall's thick enough. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't think that wall's thick enough for benches. But we might go back and change that. And then going back to this area, so I just this needed something. Obviously, we have to hide kind of the back area here. This is where all of our generators and our power and everything's going to be, which you don't want to see. And so I just think a garden fit really nicely here. And I think this kind of prairie grass, I don't know if that's the technical name in game or not, but I just think that looks really well because it's nice and tall, does a nice job hiding the fence, so that's kind of a good border, and we put some little plants in here. But going back to, I think I started talking about it with security, security is a new aspect, and I need a building that's going to kind of be our central security building. I'm thinking maybe that guest service building right inside the park right now, or kind of that area outside the park. But this is kind of another area that I think could be really good for this. So this is an area that I think is ripe for development. The maintenance stuff behind it, obviously, which we're working on now, has to stay, right? We can't really touch that. Can't really do anything with that. But I do think that is a ripe area, and probably one of the first areas in the front of the park to get developed once some more assets come in. I'd love to see a first aid component in the game, and this is another spot first aid could go. But we'll see. So this maintenance area, which I talked a little bit about in episodes 1 or 2, if you haven't watched them yet, encourage you to go back and see them, because I talk a little bit about kind of the plans for the park and everything. But this is kind of going to be our primary maintenance area for the park, at least when it comes to our utilities. So I want to have a realism aspect, and so that would be this area, right? Because our utilities are going to be our maintenance. So that's why that's here, our staff building for our maintenance people, which I don't know, do maintenance workers have to go to a maintenance shop for breaks? Is the maintenance shops just for research? Is it uh, do they use regular break rooms? I don't know. So if anyone knows that, let me know in the comments because I'm really curious because that could change kind of how we do things back here. But this is what this is going to be. So right, so we've got our big parking lot where maintenance can have their trucks. Um, there's kind of we've got our electric over here and our water on the other side with a lot of space that we are going to kind of leave blank so that we can expand it as the park expands. If we need more electric power, we need more water power, we can kind of add those through here as well. And then, of course, obviously our dumpsters and everything. But uh, this also, I think, is a great spot where you're building a new slide. You could put your slide pieces back here, potentially, as well. Um, what else do we have going on? I think that's really it going on back here. I will say the hardest thing with this was trying to make the building blend in. Obviously, we have the photo spot we just finished right on the other side of this building. And what you don't want to have happen is people go and take photos in front of this building, and then all of a sudden behind it you have just this really chunky cinder block building. And so we went ahead and we made it all green so that it kind of matches with the bushes that are out in front. And then we also put in the kind of darker brown roof just to really try to make it blend in. And actually, it doesn't look perfect from a guest perspective, but it's not the worst thing in the. So that's that over there, and then this garden area, I think I've edited it a few times since we put it in, just because the staff area behind it is going to change, especially as we build our themed areas kind of off to the left of where this building is. But just trying to kind of fill it in, make it look really nice. I am very happy with kind of how it turned out. So I've talked a little bit about the changes in the game and security and kind of health services. So this is my plan for how I'm gonna kind of approach this. So with the recent updates in the game, obviously we've got restaurants, we've got souvenir shops, security, on-ride photos, which I cannot tell you. I so badly almost want to build roller coasters now and just scrap this and just build a dry park right now. To get the exit shops and everything. I can't tell you how excited I am for that. But I'm not gonna go back and redo a lot of the areas that were done before these updates went in. And that's really probably the first 15 or 20 episodes are going to be stuff before a lot of those features were added in. So you're not going to see those in there, and you're not going to see me go back and add. But the reason for that, there's a couple reasons. First, I want to kind of be able to evolve the park over time, right? So if I had all these in now, we'd never get the park open because we're constantly redoing. But it allows us to kind of go through and say, hey, maybe this should be a quick, instead of a quick service kind of souvenir shop, maybe this should be a full-size souvenir shop. And that's a project in between year 4 and 5, right, to enhance the park. Restaurants you're not going to see in the water park because you're not really ever going to see them, right? Within health code reasoning, you have to wear shoes in restaurants, and so there's not really, and also with the mechanics of the game, having to go back and change to go into restaurants and whatnot. And I assume that's how restaurants are as well, just like your dry rides and everything. It just isn't really worth it. And so you're not going to see those things in water parks. But as we do the dry parks, as we do our transition to our dry park, it's going to work. So that stuff will come in eventually, but not right now. Not going to redo things. Not going to stress about it. All that. So something we are going to stress about, though, that we're going to work on a little bit right now, is our doors and entryways into our bathrooms and changing rooms and staff rooms. I hate the way it's just a void, right? You just walk into a void. And that's also why we add some depth around these buildings to kind of make the sizing and the scaling a little more realistic. But we're gonna put in these doors, and we're gonna do I think a little bit of lighting around them as well. But I want to dress them up, and so the hardest thing is you got that beam in the middle, so the double doors don't really work. The doors, though, I will say in Planet Coaster 2, so much better than in the original Planet Coaster. And so we're going to put these individual doors in with the scaling. We can get the perfect size. And I think I maybe change it out a little bit. It might just be that the coloring is different. But I think we maybe change a little bit of things. But we'll put in our signage, which I will say I do miss being able to set advertising destinations. I thought that was a really cool feature in the original game. Now, guests might be a little more balanced in this game to go into things. I think in the first game you had to kind of rig it a little bit, so all your shops were advertised everywhere, no matter if it was near in the park or not, to try to kind of push people to your shops and whatnot. I don't know how this mechanics of this game, but what do you know? It was just, I think, kind of the coloring is kind of why this didn't look right. But we're going to kind of dress these areas up, make sure we have all the signage, work on our colors, which I'll go over in a couple episodes, kind of how I get into all the colorings and everything. That being said, I do think this building is pretty much done. I think we're going to touch it up a little bit in maybe a couple episodes, but it is done for the most part. And so I think the lighting here is kind of the last thing we have to do here in this episode, and then we'll add some gutters in a later episode, and then that's it. And for the most part, our entry plaza is done, barring a couple of updates relative to kind of some recent things and maybe some nighttime lighting, but that is our part. So tomorrow we are going to head back outside the park, and we're going to build our parking lot in Toll Booth. I'll be honest, it's not the best. Certainly not my favorite area of the park by a long shot. Probably my least favorite, honestly. But we'll come back tomorrow. Feel free to criticize me in the comments tomorrow, or even today, on what you think of the entry plaza. And we'll do that, and we'll redo that at some point. But what we do with it tomorrow is going to be what we do with it for the park opening. But as for the rest of it, I've got nothing else for right now. So we've got a few seconds left here, so go ahead and enjoy those as we kind of put on the finishing touches here at the entry plaza. And make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment on your thoughts and everything so far. And I will see you tomorrow in the next episode.